Hey, Troy Shively here with Smart Home Buying, and today what we are looking at are flood zones. And in Florida, we have a lot of different flood zones. We have X, A, AE, A1 through A30, AH, AO. We have V, VE, V1 through V30, as well as D. What do those flood zones mean to you as a potential home buyer? Well, if it's flood zone X, great. What that means is you are not going to be required by your lender to buy flood insurance, and you're going to save a lot of money. It means the elevation of that property is above the flood stage, and therefore there is no federal requirement for you to carry flood insurance on it in order to have a mortgage on that property. Now, if you go to an A, AE, A1 through 30, AH, AO. Those are going to require flood insurance by your lender. And what it basically means is if you're like in a flood zone, let's say AE, what it is saying to us lender is when you look at the average loan term is what, 30 years. During that 30-year period of time, there is a 26% chance that that property could flood. Because of that risk, your lender is going to require you to have flood insurance. Now, we see a lot of that on the inner parts of Florida, away from the coast, where you're at least usually a half mile or more away from the coastline. You start finding different areas that are flood zone X and flood zone AEs. So, but you could have a flood zone AE in the middle of the state. It just depends what is the elevation of the ground around that particular property. Now, after that, when we look at zones V, VE, V1 through 30, that means those are properties that are close to the coast or right on the coast. And those are going to come with a considerable flood insurance premium on it because of the high risk, usually due to storm surge or high velocity winds causing flooding. And so that's something you really want to look at. A lot of people sit there, we talk all the time. Hey, I want to move close. I want to be on the water. And then we start talking about the specifics of what it really means to live on the water. And there are some people that say, hey, I still want to be on the water. Others decide that they would prefer to move inland a little bit. But also we have what, zone D. Zone D means it's undetermined. It usually find this on just raw land where there's no house has ever been built. Usually it's in a more rural, unpopulated area. And what you will want to do, even if you're considering just building a house, maybe 3, 5 years down the road, you want to make sure you're not buying land that's in a bad flood zone. So before buying that land, I would highly suggest hiring a survey company and having them do an elevation certificate on that and find out exactly what flood zone that piece of land is in. You may find out it's in a flood zone X, and which is great. You can just move forward with the purchasing of that land. But you may find out that it is in an area that's high risk, and that flood insurance, if you did build a house, would be very expensive. So you want to make sure you have an elevation certificate done. Now, something else to know. Sometimes houses, a lot of times just for the aesthetics, the ground is built up higher than what the road level is in front of the house. It looks nice. It's appealing when there's a light grade from the house to the road. And because of that, we see a lot of builders that do that. We had a listing this past year where I knew that had been done to the house. And I had, before we put this property on the market, a survey company come out and do an elevation certificate. Turned out after receiving that certificate that the house itself was 1 foot and 1 inch above flood zone. What does that mean? It means you can take that elevation certificate, file it with FEMA. Now, remember, your response may take 3 or 4 months to get back, but you can receive what's called a LOMA, which is a letter of mapping amendment. That removes the federal requirement for flood insurance on that property. Now, you may have a lender that says, hey, we still are going require you to carry flood insurance. That is at the discretion of each individual lender. However, if you do have to, most certainly your flood insurance is going to come at a considerable discount because of that elevation certificate showing that the property itself is in a very favorable height in consideration to the land around it. So something to really consider about doing. We have seen this done on houses. The house we did this on, people had lived there for over 20 years and did not know it. So it's a good thing to do, to know exactly where your property is in relationship to each flood zone and how high or low it is. You may still be in the flood zone AE, but the elevation certificate could show it being more favorable than what the insurance company thought and could reduce your flood insurance. And being that's an annual charge could save you a lot of money over time. Now, something to look at is if you don't know what your house or a certain property you're looking at, what flood zone it is in, it's easy to find out. You go to FEMA.gov and under uh, uh, floods and maps, you will see where it says data viewer. Under data viewer, there's a little box in the middle of the page that says Maps Service Center. Click on that and a window is going to pop up and you can actually type in your address that you're interested in looking up and find out what flood zone it is in. It's a very handy feature, and I'm probably on it 2-3 times a week looking for our customers before we move forward on a property. So it's something to look at. But hopefully, as always, this information helps. If you would take a moment and hit that subscribe button.